Vitamin E is very important for one very really unique reason that kind of places it in a league of its own. Besides being a very powerful antioxidant, one reason you need supplementation of vitamin E is that no matter how good your diet is, you're not going to get the optimal doses. And I'm talking optimal doses, not talking about minimal doses. Of course, you could get the minimal amount of doses to prevent certain problems because obviously, people have been getting along just fine without taking supplements sometimes for many years. But talking about optimal doses, because one of the things that vitamin E does is helps very much to prevent cardiovascular disease. So what you need to take actually is a lot more than what is typically shown to be the recommended daily requirement. You might need 1,600 international units of vitamin E, preferably mixed tocopherols, not just the alpha tocopherol, but the mixed tocopherol. And there's several other reasons, though, you would want to take vitamin E, but also I just want to state this, that vitamin E is not just this one magic thing that works all by itself and that's all you need. High up on the list, and actually number one in importance, I would say, is vitamin C, then vitamin D, vitamin E. Iodine is very important, boron, selenium, minerals such as boron, selenium. You really can't miss anything, but there's certain vitamins out there, and vitamin E and vitamin C, probably two on the tops of the list, where you really do not get anywhere near the optimal amount that is best for you just from your diet, no matter how good your diet is. These are two vitamins that really should require supplementation. Now, in the case of diabetes, vitamin E has been known to be very important for that because people are diabetic or often insulin resistant, and higher doses of vitamin E have been known to help with insulin resistance a great deal. Now, the other reason, though, besides with insulin resistance, is that it helps repair the heart and the veins and arteries and capillary system, along with vitamin C. You really should take both. I mean, I put this out as a vitamin E video, but I have a number of vitamin C videos out there right now. But one of the problems we have today is a lot of people in the United States are either they're diabetic or they're pre-diabetic. And part of the reason is, well, just due to the high amount of sugar. But you can counteract a lot of those problems with adequate amounts of vitamin E. Now, I know where some of these studies really came from is some of in the early 1950s, especially in Canada, which was a real hotbed for vitamin E research. As a matter of fact, at that time, most of the doctors were taking higher doses of vitamin E themselves, but they were not prescribing them to their patients, probably due to the field that they're in doesn't allow them to prescribe vitamins for addressing any kind of medical issue. Unfortunately, the data is backing up all the claims that vitamin E does help prevent and reverse heart disease. There's no doubt about it. But you really can't just take a small amount. In other words, what they call the recommended daily amount. See, part of the reason that recommended daily amount came about was that it was very difficult to make a diet that you would get the optimal amount. So what they did, instead of keeping that requirement the same and saying use supplements to get the best amount, they lowered the bar because it's really impossible to get the optimal amount just from your diet. It's almost virtually impossible. So, but a lot of another thing too is when people do their cholesterol test, they'll have their high density cholesterol, they'll have the low density cholesterol, and the high density is the good one, and the low density is the bad one, and triglycerides are the worst type of cholesterol. They're within the low density cholesterol, right? Well, how vitamin E is transported throughout the body is by triglycerides. So, triglycerides have a function. But my point I'm making is that a lot of people have very high triglycerides. If they took vitamin E, they got a huge transport system to bring the vitamin E to all their cells that can help repair it. And if you don't believe that vitamin E repairs cells and repairs problems in the cardiovascular system, look at, I think, virtually every single burn clinic where people have been burned. They use vitamin E topically to help repair the skin, which is being fed. The skin is being repaired by capillary system, which actually is building the skin back in. The blood system is actually, bringing the building blocks to build the skin back up. They'll use vitamin E on the skin. It's not just an antioxidant, but it's actually a healer. But it does work best combined with vitamin C. Now, if you look at the Linus Pauling Institute, the two-time Nobel Peace Prize winner, he goes into a lot about vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin D, and also niacin, vitamin B3. There's, it's not like there's just one thing, but my point is that you really can't get anywhere near the optimal amounts of vitamin E or vitamin C strictly with diet. Maybe something's been not engineered in us correctly, and as human beings, with that, we can't get all this from diet alone. I know that humans have, the four items that can actually produce vitamin C in their body in copious amounts, but one of those is dormant. I don't know when it ever went dormant at one point in time, possibly, many thousands of years ago. Sometimes, I don't know if you believe this or not, but like in a historical record in the Bible, it talked about, I think, Noah living to be 920 years old. Well, they theorized that if we produced vitamin C in our body in copious amounts, we would live at least twice as long. There's a reason behind that, and I'm talking about vitamin C, not just E here, but you really want to take both. If I was looking at, vitamin D is also important, but you got to be careful with that, because if you take higher doses of vitamin E, you want to make sure you take the magnesium and also the vitamin K2. You don't want to just take high doses of vitamin D. But with vitamin C, you're very, very safe. And also with vitamin E, you're very, very safe. There's really, there's really no toxic problems with those type of vitamins. Well, and vitamin D, you're safe. It's not a matter of toxicity. It's a matter of having that hormone being used in a correct fashion in the body to make sure the calcium is going into bones and teeth building and not calcifying your veins and arteries. That's why you need the addition of K2. And also you need magnesium, or else your vitamin D levels will never go up to optimal if you don't have the magnesium. So, when I'm putting this out about vitamin E, it's not like vitamin E is going to do all this and that's all you got to worry about. It's never that way. It's never that way. But it is one of the top ones. As far as vitamins, I'd say, vitamin, there's several actually. You just can't ignore any of them though, but I'd say vitamin E and vitamin C, we don't get anywhere near the optimal levels, nor do we get anywhere near the optimal levels of vitamin D. Niacin, you can get that from eating enough green leafy vegetables. It's very important too. Same with the other B vitamins. You could get minerals like magnesium, boron, and even iodine from food. It depends on what types of food you eat, but most of the American diet doesn't have that. The SAD, the standard American diet. But in the case of vitamin E and vitamin C, you're really, everybody's never getting anywhere near the optimal requirement. So let me just say that, it's important to supplement with this. Sometimes people say don't supplement. Do whatever you want. I know I am supplementing with it, and I'll take probably 2,000 international units or more of vitamin E a day. It's not too much. It's that I'm actually taking it in the supplement form. And when you do get the vitamin E, you want to make sure that it does say it's of the natural type, and the way you could tell is like, let's say, alpha tocopherols or whatever. It'll say D. It'll have the letter D, as in Delta, D, then a hyphen, then alpha tocopherols, plus, the other tocopherols. If it says DL, that's synthetic. If it says DL dash and then alpha tocopherols, that's synthetic. Now, if you'll see a lot of times there's conflicting studies you'll see on the internet or even from Harvard that vitamin E didn't have effect on this. You know what it is? Vitamin E that's synthetic. Obviously, somehow when they're making it synthetically, it's supposed to be the same, but it's not. Something's different about it. I don't know exactly what. But when you're seeing vitamin E didn't work in one study and vitamin E did work in another study, it's usually because they're comparing synthetic versus natural. And the other side of it is, too, if you're taking vitamin E and it's not anywhere near the optimal doses, it's not going to work. It's like saying, somebody says has a headache and they take 2 aspirins and it works, right? And they'll say, for instance, if somebody says, here's a headache, you have a headache, and you're saying, I'm going to take 2/10 of one pill, and they find out it didn't work, well, that's because your aspirin dose was nowhere near what it should be, correct? That's really, how they're, hiding the reality behind how well these vitamins work. They're either telling you the wrong, they're telling you minimalistic doses, or they're comparing synthetic to the natural vitamin E. And that even goes along with pretty much everything out there that, with lycopene, if you had the synthetic version of lycopene, it has absolutely no effect on prostate cancer. But lycopene that's right from the tomato, the natural lycopene, does have effect on prostate cancer. So, that's part of your confusion, because they're not really comparing the same exact thing. Theoretically, these synthetics are supposed to be identical, but they seem to be missing something. Somehow, they're not observing everything that's occurring in nature. So, but since most people in the United States are diabetic or pre-diabetic and they have high cholesterol and they're overweight, vitamin E would be a very, very good thing for them, because the triglycerides are the main carrier of vitamin E to all the cells. A lot of people are high on triglycerides, so you might as well take that to your advantage with extra vitamin E. And also, a lot of people are more danger from heart attack or heart disease because of the diabetic conditions they're in. And plus, they have insulin resistance. And the other side of it is, too, vitamin E will also help your mental function and help prevent Alzheimer's and also a lot of arthritic conditions and fibromyalgia, because it is a repair mechanism and an antioxidant goes throughout all the body. But it's not like even doctors that know this stuff and they take the vitamins themselves, they don't really tell the public about it. And it's probably maybe because they're forbidden to do that, but I don't know why it would be forbidden for them to just inform somebody that it would be a good idea to take vitamin E versus, prescribing it or something, or saying it's directly for, your heart problems or whatever. But there's a lot of studies out there that have, it's been known since the 1950s. It's been proven in studies that involve like well over 165,000 people. But it's not just one thing. It's not just only about the heart. It's an antioxidant. It's good for the skin. And a lot of times you'll see skin cream out there that has vitamin E in it. Sometimes it's not just vitamin E. It could be vitamin A or vitamin C or hyaluronic acid. But, vitamin E is frequently found in a lot of skin creams. Like I said, it's always used in the burn centers, which says a lot about right there, because it's a repair, helps the body to repair and regenerate, and it works as an antioxidant. But people, and beware, like I said, if you pick up some vitamins, say vitamin E, you want to get the mixed tocopherols preferably. A lot of times they just sell the alpha tocopherol with it, only the main part of it, but you want to have it with the mixed tocopherols. But if it says D hyphen alpha tocopherol, that's the natural. If it says DL, like Delta Lima, the two letters DL in the beginning, that's a synthetic. I mean, I'm not saying that's not going to do you any good, but most of the time these studies where they say it doesn't work for heart health or whatever, it's because they're comparing synthetic to, or they're using, low dosages where it's not going to do much good. But a lot of times it's because they're actually using the synthetic version of vitamin E. And somehow it's not the same. They'll tell you it's got to be the same, but somehow, the end results on the human body, it's nowhere near as good. It's better than not having anything. If you're short on vitamin E, you might as well take if you got synthetic and you have nothing else, you might as well take that. But I'm telling you, you're far better off getting the natural version. One of these days, I don't know if they're going to there's been a large push to try to clamp down on vitamins, minerals, and supplements that are natural to the public. But, I sometimes don't think it's all about money. Maybe they're just trying to cut down the global population. Who knows? I mean, maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know. It seems to be there's some kind of agenda here beyond just money. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's such a blatantly, obvious truth how good vitamin E is for the body, and really that you need a lot more than what they recommend. Like I said, they made the recommended daily requirement because it's so low, because it's very difficult to get the optimal amount from diet. It's almost as if we have a defect in our genetic engineering, that we don't have enough, we don't have ways to even produce vitamin E in our body, or ways to produce vitamin C. It's almost like there's a defect in our engineering. And I theorize that with optimal nutrition, people's lifespans will be probably double, and it wouldn't be like you're 100 years old and you'd be feeling and looking like 100 years old at 100 years old. You'd be like you're 50, and when you're at 50 years old, it'd be like 25 years old, and if you're at 150 years old, maybe you'd be like 75 years old. It's not like I think there's a lot of potential here, and I don't think anybody's really taking it to the full potential, because most of these studies that prove that these vitamins are that powerful, they're fairly recent, and the information's been hidden from the public pretty strongly. And it gets a little confusing because, it's not like one thing is the magic thing and that's all you need. But vitamin E is one of your top vitamins. I can say vitamin C, E, D, iodine, selenium, boron, niacin. But you need everything. You really do need everything. But most of those ones I mentioned there, right there, we are very short on the American diet, big time. So just take a word of advice, and I get my information not off the internet. I've actually read books about orthomolecular medicine. I was reading a lot of studies in there, and I can quote these studies. But I figured, why do this? Because then, the video gets to be an hour long, and I don't want to emphasize that, vitamin E is the be-all, end-all of everything. But it's something and it's in our diet that is seriously lacking, and it's seriously lacking in any diet across the planet. That it's almost impossible to get optimal levels of E. Like if I mention iodine. Maybe we're short in America on iodine, but Japan, they're fine because they eat a lot of seafood. And maybe we're short in America on selenium, but other parts of the world might have selenium-rich soils, so it might not be a problem. Or, maybe we're short on vitamin D, but maybe there's other people that are outside in the sun for maybe a good hour a day or 30 minutes a day or whatever, and they got plenty of vitamin E, because they live in a latitude where there's a lot of sun, and maybe they do outdoor work or whatever, they're doing construction or whatever they're doing, and part of their skin is exposed, and they got plenty of vitamin D. But the other vitamin I said that we can never really get enough from diet, it's almost impossible, is vitamin C, and I'm talking optimal levels. Optimal levels. So you should keep those very high in your list. And I particularly like the vitamin E and the vitamin C because you really don't have to worry about taking the optimal level and it being too much. Like with vitamin D, if you're taking the optimal level, you really got to make sure you take vitamin K2 with it and magnesium. And magnesium is because if you don't have adequate magnesium, you'll never raise your D levels in your blood ever without adequate magnesium. But it's not like one thing. I mean, zinc is another thing that's very important, and that's what I want to emphasize. But again, nobody is getting anywhere near the optimal levels of vitamin E, no matter what your diet is. And that's what makes this vitamin very unique. And it's one of the top ones as far as being good for the human physiology, especially cardiovascular health. Anyway, in Americans, being that we're cardiovascular disease is one of the #1 killers, plus a lot of people that are diabetic out there or pre-diabetic. The other factors with the vitamin E is that it helps with insulin resistance. You just can't beat it for the dollar that you're spending on it. It's dirt cheap. And I don't sell vitamins, so I just buy my own. Anyway, over and out.